My wife came to me recently, last year actually, and said, we need security cameras and I want to learn how to shoot right. I want to take classes. I want to be able to defend myself when you're out doing the job that you have to do for the state. And Madam Speaker, that struck me because I realized it was that sense of uncertainty, that sense of what happens next, that sense of what happens when you're taking your kid to school or the doctor's appointment or the park. And Madam Speaker, I know that's a feeling that's being felt by hundreds and thousands and maybe even millions of people around this state. Madam Speaker, there's a reason that gun purchases are going up exponentially when women and minorities, heck, and men, because they know that something has changed. They know that the world is different and they know that they need to protect themselves. Madam Speaker, we know that this bill is really a sentence enhancement. The good people, the law-abiding people are going to be left without, while the bad guys who commit these atrocious crimes are going to get a few more years added to their life sentence. Madam Speaker, I do not want to be the person. I would be mortified to be the person who votes for a 10-round magazine limit when 11 rounds are what are needed to protect your family. Please vote no.
I think the term high capacity and large is a bit misleading because it's really speaking of 10 rounds of ammunition. And I have to ask, if somebody were coming for your life, would 10 rounds be enough to defend your life against somebody that was intent on taking it? What if you're defending your spouse, your children? Would 10 rounds be enough?
Why are we hanging our loved ones and our citizens on an arbitrary number of 10? Where did that?
Speak to the policy, please, and please don't assign motives to others.
I'm struggling, Madam Speaker, with the underlying legislation that hangs a number of 10 on this particular bill. What about the 11th round? What if we aren't average? It simply is a number that we just said, let's do this.
This bill is not going to keep us safer. This bill is not going to end gun violence. If you want to end gun violence, we need to stop hamstringing our law enforcement and allow them to enforce the laws that we already have. That's how we're going to stop gun violence, Madam Speaker. Please vote no.
Firearms as a tool can empower women, they can protect families, and that by passing this kind of a law, we are not stopping criminals with bad intent, even though we wish we could.
Madam Speaker, without having these larger magazines, our people are actually going to be less safe. And this is so important in the rural communities because it can be 10 minutes, 20 minutes, an hour, even longer before a police officer can get there. By that time, the crime is done. The people in the household are dead. And the perpetrator is gone. The magazines aren't the problem. It's the way some people use the magazines. Those people should be put in prison and kept in prison.
You know, we're talking about people and guns tonight. And I think there's two views. Bad people with guns are going to do what they're going to do. And I think law-abiding gun owners have them for a different reason. It's for deterrence and it's for protection, which is a very different thing. And I think when you're carrying a firearm for that reason, you want the best available, and you might want a higher capacity magazine when you consider what's at stake.
We have to remember that criminals don't follow laws. We heard that repeatedly tonight. The definition of criminal is someone who doesn't follow the law. So how can we think that by changing this law, that's going to change it? They don't follow it anyway. I had the privilege of growing up with my dad and my brother who taught me to use guns. They taught me to shoot guns. They taught me to clean guns, load guns, all safely. They taught me to store guns safely. They taught me to respect guns. And I'm very grateful for that gift. It's a scary world out there, Madam Speaker. And for me, this is about choice. If you choose, Madam Speaker, to not have a gun, that's your choice. But me, I choose to have a gun. And please, Madam Speaker, please help keep my Second Amendment rights intact. Thank you.
We're talking about the Second Amendment here. We all probably have our favorite one of the 10 amendments in the Bill of Rights. But what we ought to remember, Madam Speaker, is that an attack on one is an attack on all of them. And if we diminish the Second Amendment today, I think that makes it a lot easier to diminish the First Amendment tomorrow.
Madam Speaker, one of the flaws underlying this bill is the confusion of correlation and causation. This bill confuses a piece of hardware made of plastic or metal with the kind of inhuman, nihilistic carnage that bad and sick people wreak on others. There is no causal relation between this piece of hardware and those evil actions. But, Madam Speaker, if we allow the emotions that are triggered and riven by graphic images and bitter memories to drive our public policy, we will go into dark and bad places. Madam Speaker, our policy needs to be driven by logic. Our duty is to make people's lives safer.